Men, when someone in a relationship isn't being honest, they might lie with words, but the right questions will reveal the truth instantly. Today, I'll share 7 powerful questions that put dishonest partners on the spot and force genuine responses to come out. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and drop a comment if you've ever asked one of these questions. It could help another person spot inconsistencies in their relationship. Question number 1. Where were you last night? This seems simple, but repetition reveals inconsistencies that dishonest people struggle to maintain. The key isn't asking once, it's asking multiple times over several conversations and watching how the story changes. Someone telling the truth gives the same basic details every time. Someone lying has to remember what they said before, and that's where they slip up. Here's how this works in practice. You ask casually on Tuesday night, "Where were you last night?" She says she went to dinner with Sarah, and then they watched a movie at Sarah's place. Normal response, nothing suspicious. But then, on Thursday, you bring it up again in a different context. "Oh, Sarah called earlier. How was dinner with her on Monday?" Watch what happens. A truthful person says something like, "Oh, it was good. We had that Thai place she likes." But someone who wasn't actually with Sarah starts scrambling. Maybe she says, "We didn't have dinner, we just watched the movie." Or she gets defensive. "Why are you asking about Sarah? Don't you trust me?" The story shifts because she has to remember what lie she told versus what actually happened. But sophisticated liars prepare for this. They'll have consistent stories ready. That's why you vary when and how you ask. Bring it up when they're distracted. Ask about specific details. What movie did you watch? Or which Thai place did you go to? The more specific you get, the harder it becomes to maintain a false story. I once helped a friend who suspected his girlfriend was lying about her evening activities. Every Tuesday, she claimed to have yoga class, then dinner with her sister. When he asked about the yoga class, she always had details. What poses they did, how crowded it was, what the instructor said. But when he asked about dinner with her sister, the details were always vague. "We just talked," or "nothing special, just caught up." After weeks of inconsistent dinner details, but consistent yoga stories, he realized the yoga was real, but the sister dinners were cover for something else. Question number 2. Why didn't you answer my call? This forces them to explain communication gaps and reveals their priorities during suspicious times. Everyone misses calls sometimes, but patterns of missed calls during specific times or from specific places tell a different story. When you call and they don't answer, their explanation reveals whether they're being honest about their activities and location. The truthful response is usually straightforward. "My phone was in my bag and I didn't hear it," or "I was in a meeting and couldn't answer." But someone hiding something gives responses that don't add up. They might say they were in a loud restaurant, but when you ask about the restaurant, they can't remember details about the noise or atmosphere. Here's what to watch for. Over-explaining is a major red flag. Instead of, "I was at the gym and didn't hear it," you get a 5-minute story about how their phone was in the locker, the gym was crowded, they were focused on their workout, and by the time they saw the missed call, it seemed too late to call back. Truth doesn't require that much justification. Another red flag is defensive responses. "Why do you always call when I'm busy?" Or, "Can't I have one evening without checking in?" These responses avoid explaining the missed call by making you feel guilty for asking. Someone with nothing to hide simply explains what happened. But the biggest tell is when their explanation contradicts their social media activity. They claim they were too busy to answer your call, but their Instagram story from that same time shows them casually posting photos or engaging with other people's content. If they had time to post on social media, they had time to send a quick text explaining why they couldn't talk. I remember analyzing a situation where a woman claimed she missed her boyfriend's calls every Thursday evening because she was at her book club and kept her phone on silent. But her Instagram activity showed she was actively liking posts and viewing stories during those exact times when she supposedly couldn't answer his calls. The book club was real, but she was leaving early to meet someone else, keeping her phone accessible for social media, but ignoring her boyfriend's calls. Question number 3, who are you with? Direct but effective, this question cuts through vague social references and forces specific accountability. Most people naturally share details about who they spent time with. I was out with Sarah and Jessica from work, or I met my college friend Mike for drinks. But someone hiding the truth gives vague, unverifiable answers. Just some friends, or a few people from around, doesn't give you any way to verify their story or ask follow-up questions. Watch their body language when you ask this question. Eye contact, facial expressions, and physical comfort level reveal more than words. Someone telling the truth maintains normal eye contact and relaxed body language. Someone lying often looks away, touches their face, or becomes physically uncomfortable. The response pattern also matters. Truthful people usually volunteer additional information. I was with Sarah. You remember her from my birthday party? We went to that new place downtown. But deceptive people give minimal information and resist follow-up questions. When you ask, which Sarah, they get irritated instead of clarifying. Here's a sophisticated version of this question. Ask about the other people later in casual conversation. If she says she was out with Sarah and Mike, bring up Mike in a different context a few days later. How's Mike doing? You mentioned him the other day. Watch her reaction. If Mike doesn't exist or wasn't actually there, she'll either not remember mentioning him or scramble to create a consistent story about him. Another variation is asking mutual friends. If she claims she was with people you both know, you can verify the story without seeming suspicious. I saw Jessica at the store today. She mentioned you two had fun last week. If Jessica looks confused or says they haven't hung out recently, you know the story was false. I once worked with someone whose girlfriend claimed to be out with her coworkers every Friday night. When he asked, "Who were you with?" she always said, "Just some people from work." But when he ran into her actual coworkers at a company event, none of them mentioned Friday night hangouts. Her vague answers were covering for the fact that she wasn't with coworkers at all. She was maintaining a separate social life he didn't know about. Question number 4. Why do you seem distant lately? This calls out emotional and behavioral changes that indicate divided attention and priorities. When someone starts investing emotional energy outside their primary relationship, their behavior inside the relationship changes. They become less engaged, less physically affectionate, less interested in shared activities, and less emotionally available. This question forces them to acknowledge and explain those changes. A loyal partner who's noticed they've been distracted will usually explain what's going on. I've been stressed about work, or my family situation has been overwhelming me. They'll provide context and often apologize for how their stress has affected the relationship. But someone who's emotionally investing elsewhere deflects the question or turns it back on you. Common deflection responses include, "I'm not distant, you're being clingy," or "Why do you always analyze everything I do?" These responses avoid addressing the behavioral change by making you feel wrong for noticing it. Someone with nothing to hide doesn't get defensive about emotional distance. They explain what's causing it. Another red flag response is overcompensating. Instead of explaining the distance, they suddenly become overly affectionate or attentive for a few days, then return to the distant behavior. This temporary change indicates they know their behavior was noticeable, and they're trying to throw you off the trail, rather than addressing the underlying cause. But the most revealing response is when they claim nothing has changed despite obvious behavioral differences. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm the same as always." This response indicates they're either completely unaware of how their outside emotional investments are affecting their primary relationship, or they're aware but hoping you'll stop noticing. Here's what to watch for in their explanation. Truthful reasons for emotional distance usually include specific external stressors, work problems, family issues, health concerns, financial stress. These explanations come with details and timelines. I've been distant because my mum's been in the hospital, and I'm worried about her surgery next week. But vague explanations without specifics indicate they're hiding the real cause. I've just been dealing with some personal stuff, or I have a lot on my mind lately. Could be true, but someone in a committed relationship typically shares what's bothering them unless they're hiding something they can't share. I remember a situation where a man noticed his wife had become emotionally unavailable. Less conversation, less physical affection, less interest in their shared activities. When he asked why she seemed distant, she claimed work stress. But when he offered to help by taking over some household responsibilities so she could rest, she declined. When he suggested they plan a relaxing weekend together, she wasn't interested. Someone genuinely stressed by work would appreciate support and connection. Her rejection of his help indicated the work stress was covering for emotional investment elsewhere. Question number 5. Can I see your phone for a minute? The ultimate test of transparency and trust in the digital age. This question reveals more through their reaction than through what you might actually find on the phone. Someone with nothing to hide responds naturally, either handing over the phone or explaining why they need it at that moment. Someone with something to hide panics, deflects, or becomes defensive. The immediate physical reaction tells you everything. Watch their body language the moment you ask. Do they instinctively move the phone away from you? Do they tense up or look uncomfortable? These unconscious physical responses happen before they can control their verbal response. Common deceptive responses include, "Why do you want to see my phone?" or "Don't you trust me?" These responses answer your question with questions, avoiding compliance while making you feel guilty for asking. Someone with nothing to hide might ask what you need the phone for, but they don't make you feel wrong for asking. Another red flag is conditional compliance. You can see it later, or "Let me just finish this text first." These responses suggest they need time to delete or hide something before you can look. Immediate, unconditional compliance indicates transparency. Delayed or conditional compliance indicates preparation. But the most revealing response is complete refusal combined with offense. "Absolutely not. I can't believe you'd even ask." Or, "This relationship is over if you don't trust me." These extreme reactions suggest the phone contains information they absolutely cannot let you see. Someone with normal privacy concerns explains their boundaries calmly. Someone hiding significant secrets reacts with disproportionate outrage. Here's a sophisticated approach. Don't ask to search through their phone. Ask to use it for something specific. "Can I use your phone to call my mum? Mine is dead." Or, "Can I check the weather on your phone?" This removes the suspicion of snooping while still testing their comfort level with phone sharing. Their response to practical requests reveals their true comfort level. Someone with nothing to hide hands over their phone for legitimate uses without hesitation. Someone with something to hide creates barriers even for innocent requests. "Why don't you charge your phone first?" Or, "Just wait until we get home." Question number 6. Why are you dressing up more than usual? This exposes behavior changes related to seeking external validation and attention. When someone starts a relationship outside their primary partnership, their appearance habits change. They put more effort into how they look, buy new clothes, change their style, or start wearing makeup and accessories they previously ignored. This question forces them to explain those changes. The pattern to watch for is increased effort during specific times or for specific activities. If they suddenly care more about their appearance for work, evening activities, or weekend plans, but their appearance effort for time with you remains the same, they're putting extra effort into how they look for someone else. Truthful explanations for appearance changes usually relate to personal satisfaction or specific life changes. "I got a promotion and want to look more professional," or "I'm trying to feel better about myself after losing weight." These explanations make sense and include details about their motivation, but deceptive explanations are often vague or defensive. "I just felt like trying something new," Or, why can't I care about how I look? These responses avoid explaining the specific motivation or timing of the appearance changes. Someone with innocent reasons for dressing differently is happy to share their motivation. Another red flag is appearance effort that doesn't match the claimed activity. She's suddenly putting significant effort into her appearance for activities that previously required minimal preparation: grocery shopping, visiting family, or running errands. When routine activities start requiring careful appearance preparation, she's likely encountering someone during those activities that she wants to impress. The timing of appearance changes also reveals priorities. If she spends an hour getting ready for activities away from you, but minimal effort for time together, her appearance priorities have shifted toward external validation rather than your relationship. Here's what to watch for in their response. Defensiveness about appearance questions often indicates guilt about the real motivation. What's wrong with wanting to look good? Or, you should be happy I care about my appearance, deflects the question while making you feel wrong for asking. Question number 7. Why do you keep saying I don't trust you? This turns their favorite defensive strategy back on them and forces them to examine their own behavior. When people are hiding something, they often preemptively accuse their partner of being suspicious, controlling, or untrusting. This defensive strategy shifts the focus from their questionable behavior to your allegedly unreasonable concerns. This question forces them to explain why trust has become such a frequent topic in your conversations. Someone who brings up trust issues constantly is usually projecting their own guilt about being untrustworthy. They know their behavior is suspicious, so they try to make you feel guilty for noticing by claiming you're the one with trust problems. The key is recognizing the pattern. 1 or 2 defensive comments about trust might be normal relationship friction, but constantly deflecting legitimate questions with, "You don't trust me," or "This relationship won't work without trust," indicates they're using your relationship values against you to avoid accountability. Here's how this manifests in conversations. You ask where they were, and instead of answering, they say, "I can't believe you don't trust me." You mention they've been distant, and they respond with, "If you trusted me, you wouldn't be analyzing my behavior." Every legitimate concern or question gets redirected to your supposed trust issues. When you ask this question, watch for their response pattern. Someone who genuinely values trust will examine their own behavior. "You're right, I have been defensive about trust lately. Let me think about why." But someone using trust as a defensive weapon gets more defensive. "Because you're always suspicious," or "because you make me feel like a criminal." The most revealing response is when they can't provide specific examples of your supposed distrust. When you ask, "What have I done that makes you think I don't trust you?" they struggle to give concrete examples because their trust complaints aren't based on your behavior. They're based on their guilt about their own behavior. Another red flag is when their trust complaints don't match your actual questions or concerns. You ask about their evening plans, and they accuse you of not trusting them. You mention they seem tired lately, and they claim you're being controlling. These disproportionate responses indicate they're feeling guilty about something and interpreting normal relationship communication as threats. I once worked with a man whose girlfriend constantly accused him of being untrusting, despite the fact that he rarely asked questions about her activities and generally gave her significant freedom and independence. When he asked why she kept bringing up trust, she couldn't provide specific examples of his supposed suspicious behavior. Her frequent trust complaints were actually reveals of her own awareness that she was being untrustworthy, not responses to his behavior.